we're so excited to introduce Lucy Beall. Lucy is a youth art historian seeking to change how society views differently abled individuals. Although she has recessive dystrophic epidermolysis bullosa, a genetic skin condition without a cure, she is defying stigmas surrounding disabilities by being a full-time student, working in London art auction houses, and by modeling. Through her modeling, speaking, and writing, she hopes to develop the discussion on visible disabilities and challenge traditional ideals of beauty. Thank you so much for joining us, and welcome, Lucy.
Thank you. Thank y'all for having me.
Awesome.
Of course. So for those who don't know yet, could you start off by telling us what EB is?
Yeah, totally. So EB is an incredibly rare family of genetic conditions that most often affects the skin. So it can be quite a visible condition that leaves the patient with many scars. But what a lot of people don't know is that for some subtypes, like my subtype RDEB, it doesn't just affect the skin, it can affect any internal surface as well. So that's your eyes, your throat, and all internal organs. So it is quite an involved condition, even though we refer to it as a skin condition. But your skin is your largest organ, so it does affect that the most.
Yeah, and like I said, you have dedicated a lot of your time to breaking these stigmas. And could you talk about some of the stigmas that surround EB and other rare diseases, especially the visible ones?
Yeah, of course. So, yeah, one of the biggest stigmas and obstacles with having a rare condition is that no one knows about it. You can't just say, oh, I have EB to someone if they ask you, because they don't know what that is. So you also have to explain your condition, which is why I do a lot of the modeling work that I do, because I don't think anybody should have to be left on the dark on something like this. And a lot of the stigmas that I grew up with were quite harmful. You didn't see someone with a disability in movies or TV, or you didn't really read about them in books. And if you did, they would often be the butt of a joke at some point. So that led me to grow up thinking that my body was also a joke, and that things other people had weren't meant for someone with a body like mine. So relationships, careers, even full-time education was something that might be unattainable for me, which of course is just a stigma that isn't true. I grew up learning that wasn't true after I was able to kind of figure it out for myself. But there wasn't anyone who looked like me in the media. So I thought there was something wrong with my body, not because I thought that personally, but because I wasn't seeing it around me. So I think being able to see yourself represented in the media we see is really important, which is why I do a lot of the modeling stuff that I do. And I talk about my education and relationships and work, because I would love for a day to come whenever I can talk about my achievements or my relationship or work or anything, and EB isn't mentioned in the same breath, because while I do have EB, it's not my entire life. You know, so I think that there's a lot of misconceptions and stigma surrounding people with visible disabilities, but the most important thing to understand is that even though we do have a disability, also disability isn't a dirty word. Like, a lot of people are afraid to use it, but I think it's totally okay to say that word. Even though we have this disability, we are still people outside of that condition, and we're so much more than our bodies. So like, you wouldn't judge anyone just based on how they look or what they wear. You shouldn't judge people based on their visible or invisible disabilities.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for bringing that up, because that actually segues perfectly to our next question, which is, you've lived your life with EB and you don't want people to look at it only as that. So can you talk about kind of in which ways you want people to look at you and your achievements?
Yeah, definitely. I remember like the first time I got one of my first jobs, I was working at an auction house in a really affluent area of London, and that auction house allowed me to work in a selling exhibit at the Saatchi Gallery, which is a really huge art gallery. And whenever I was waiting on the bench outside the gallery, waiting for my manager to come and explain to me what art I was selling for the auction house and sign my contracts in person, I realized that I had not told her that I had EB. And I was terrified that she would see me and see my scars and be like, oh, you know what, never mind, because that has happened to me before in my career back home in Texas. And then I was just so shocked because whenever she got there, she didn't do any of that. She shook my hand and led me to where I would be working. So I think that, yeah, well, I want to be known like everyone else does for what I put out, not for how I look. Because even though, you know, I do have to have surgeries, or I have to, you know, take some days slower, or even because I look a little different with my scarring, that doesn't affect any of my abilities to study art or to sell art or to, you know, do my research. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the day whenever I can be known for what I put out into the world instead of what I look like when I'm doing it. Which is a difficult balance to strike as well with I didn't intend to be a model originally. I started writing articles about what it was like to live with EB and to live with the visible condition whenever I was 17, because I went to go pick up my dog from the vet. And this is whenever I still lived in Santa Fe, New Mexico with my mom. And whenever I went, it was a hot day, so I wore shorts and you could see all the scars on my legs and all the scars on my arms and everything. And I sat down next to a woman at the vet, and she looked over at me once and she said, "You look like you've been mauled by a gorilla. What happened to you?" And I told her a lie. I didn't believe she deserved to know about my life and what happened to me. So I lied and I said I was in a motorcycle accident. And she never once looked me in the eye, but then she said, "At least your face was spared." So I picked up my dog and I went to my car. I just started sobbing on the phone to my mom, because I have a lot of people say a lot of things to me, especially, I mean, up until that point as well. But that was it. I didn't want to do it anymore. I didn't want any other child born with a visible condition or with EB to have to carry the burden of social stigmas as well, besides just the burden of pain. And after I was, you know, pulled myself together a little bit, my mom was like, "Well, you should write about it." And so I did. And my first article was published in the Huffington Post before my 18th birthday. But it just kind of snowballed from there, because even though my writing was amazing and it was a powerful way for me to be able to share my story in my own words, EB is such a visual thing. And I felt like in order to understand an even a small part of what we go through, you had to see my scars and therefore my life. So I started modeling, and it's kind of snowballed a little bit from there with bigger photographers and bigger publications, which has really been amazing, because that has allowed me to share my story and to educate people about EB who might not otherwise go looking for it. So it's been really cool.
Well, and yeah, I mean, it's just incredible all you've done. And as you said a little bit, you know, one of the harder things about having such a rare disease is that, you know, not a lot of people know about it.
Yeah.
And an organization that both my parents work a lot with, and I've worked with a bunch since I've known about it since I was very little, is EB Research Partnership. So a little bit about what they do, or and what makes their organization just so powerful and effective.
Yeah, so EBRP is really amazing. One of my really good friends, Michelle Hall, works there as well. And what's really wonderful about them is that they are completely dedicated to funding research for a cure, because EB doesn't have a cure. And without this important awareness and research, there won't be one. So EBRP has been absolutely amazing with not just finding ways to fund this research, but generating public interest as well, which is really important to help find a cure for this, because if people don't know about it, there just won't be one. And they raised really good point as well that by finding a cure for EB, you don't just find a cure for EB. You find a cure for many other genetic conditions that currently don't have a cure as well. So they're really incredible in that they are so diverse in what they do. But, they always have the one dedicated goal of research for a cure, which is really great because a lot of organizations have to split what they do a little bit. So a little bit would go to funding research for a cure, a little bit would go to helping daily activities and daily needs, and then the other bit would go to public outreach. But luckily, EB Research Partnership gets to dedicate everything they do to this ultimate goal of finding a cure for us. So that's really amazing, and it's awesome to be able to work with them.
This genetic condition, so many people are affected by it. If there's one piece of advice that you could give to people around the world who are affected by it, what would it be?
I would say to always remind yourself that you are so much more than your body. Your body can do really amazing things, but it in no way defines you. What defines you is who you are as a person. So don't let anyone else tell you differently than that. And it's also really important to remember that even though it's wonderful to be positive about your body, no one wakes up every single day thinking, gee, I just love myself. It is always a process, and some days are hard. So on those days that are hard, you can just decide to still be kind to yourself. I think that's the most important thing, is understanding that is hard and it's okay to be kind to yourself.
Yeah, and then our last question is, you and I've been really lucky to get to work with you on our new project. So we've been working with EBRP and each other to work on this campaign, Beauty is Not Rare. And do you want to talk a little bit more about what we're doing? Because it's up now.
It's so fun. Yeah, and it's so exciting. We've had a really great time working on this. We started way back in May talking about it. Our campaign is called Beauty is Not Rare. And it's really about understanding that we are all kind of in this together. That even though some people's struggles might be a little bit more visible, we all have something going on that can connect us together. I think there's a lot of stigmas for everyone in the beauty industry, online and social media. We often see one kind of body praised in social media as well. So we decided to name it Beauty is Not Rare, to show that, not only to highlight the fact that, even though EB is rare, the beauty found in the individuals with EB isn't. But for everyone, beauty isn't rare. Everything, about someone can be beautiful, even if you don't fit society's perfect, unachievable standards of beauty. So there's beauty in everyone. And that's what our campaign is about, really connecting each other with that. It's exciting. It's fun.
Thank you so much, Lucy, for joining us today and educating us all about EB. As usual, now that the conversation is over, here are some ways that you can take action. Go check out ebresearch.org. Once on the website, you can find out about events that are taking place, ways to donate, and so much more. Also, go look up @CharityDeborah on Instagram, which is the national charity that supports those affected by EB.
Thank you so much for meeting with us, Lucy. It was incredible.
Of course. Thank y'all for helping me raise awareness.